Next up, we'll talk with John Saylor, who works with Lexington's Division of Environmental Services on street tree maintenance.
My name is John Saylor. I'm the Arborist Senior for the Lexington-Fayette Urban County Government, and I work in the Division of Environmental Services. I'm here today to talk to you about street trees and the benefits of street trees, and a little bit of how to maintain and what we're looking for as far as the street tree guidelines and the ordinance that governs street trees here in Lexington, Kentucky. First, I'd like to say that street trees, it's one of the only infrastructure thing that we can install and put in that actually gains in value over time. Most gray infrastructure does not do that. It actually as time goes by, it actually depreciates and has to be maintained and fixed. And trees as well need to be maintained, but as they are growing, they are increasing in the benefits and values that they bring to our community. It's kind of like compound interest. All the social, economic, and environmental benefits that trees provide us, that's what we gain as these trees are maturing and growing over time. Get a lot of questions, why do we have street trees? So that's the main reason. This is the value that they add to our community. You know, a lot of folks are aware that we have an EPA consent decree, and they mitigate stormwater. They help capture some of that stormwater before it gets into our storm drains. So there's a number of reasons why we have and value street trees and want to obtain those benefits that they're producing as our green infrastructure throughout the community. So I'd like to stress that street trees, they do need to be maintained. We're in an urban environment. You know, typically out in the forest, in the woods, they kind of have competition and they grow up and they don't have those lower branches that we see in the city as they're open grown. So because of that and because of other reasons, they need to be maintained. We need to, at some time in their life, a lot of folks do a 2 to 5, some do a 7 to 10 year pruning cycle on these trees, so that we get the dead wood and diseased limbs out of them. And in particular for street trees, we have clearance issues that need to be addressed. We want the street trees to be limbed up 7 feet over the sidewalk and 12 over the street. And you can find that information on our website at lexingtonky.gov. You can go to urban forestry and you can read all about the street tree guidelines, and we do require people when a street tree is dead to replace it. And it's in the easement, but it's actually that responsibility for street tree maintenance is on the property owner, the homeowner. So we do require these trees to be clearance pruned. You know, you can imagine on the street side having deliveries, trucks coming down and garbage trucks. We want those to be at 12 feet so that we don't have the branches impeding traffic as it's driving, as well as on the sidewalk. The pedestrians, it's at 7 feet so that people can walk underneath those trees and not worry about getting their eyes poked or having to step aside off the sidewalk onto the lawns. But we require that 7 feet so that just the ease of traffic, pedestrian traffic on the sidewalks. And and your mailman too. Your mailman, as far as the street goes, they need to be able to deliver those mailboxes, and we want them to be able to have that access to get to the mailboxes. Again, I mentioned delivery truck drivers, UPS, FedEx, and the garbage trucks, as well as street sweepers. The street sweepers need to be able to sweep to the curb, and if they can't get in there, then you're not getting that full service, and we're not getting the curbs cleaned out so that it doesn't get in our storm drains. So there's several reasons to maintain and prune your street trees, and we'll have some tools that we'll show you that you can purchase if you don't have them already, that you can use to train your tree. And it's kind of like I always tell people, it's kind of like a child. If you prune them young, then they'll grow the way that you want them. You'll train them the way that you want them to grow. and that helps later in life, so that you're not taking big branches off your tree. That happens a lot, where the tree will be in the easement and not pruned or touched for years, and then when that limb becomes an issue, then it's a bigger cut, and people are more apprehensive about taking it, which I understand. That they don't want to leave a big wound on the trunk. But that's why we want to encourage people to train their trees when they're younger. That way you don't have that issue later in the tree's life. But also, if people don't feel like they're up to the task, then I want to stress that you can hire a certified arborist to do this work for you. There's plenty of tree services that have certified arborists that know the right cuts to make, and that way it kind of takes that burden off of you, and you know that you're in good hands with a certified arborist to prune and train your trees. Okay, we're out here with this red maple. Red maple is a common street tree in Lexington. It's planted throughout the south side of town and all throughout. But what I'm looking at here is this branch is actually growing towards the sidewalk. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that branch, and like I mentioned earlier, you can do it on whatever pruning cycle you like. If you don't want to take a lot, I feel comfortable taking bigger stuff because I know the cuts to make and what the impact it's going to have on the tree's life. But Alex Shigo is like he's the father of modern forest pathology. He always said that you need to know what you're doing with each cut. You need to have a purpose behind each cut. You can't just come in here and randomly make cuts. And you see that a lot, and you see people making a stub cut. You don't want to leave a stub. You want to always take that whatever you're removing, you want to take it back to a lateral branch. You want to take it back to something that's going to be growing. If you leave a stub, you're sending nutrients out to void, and there's nothing that, basically it's not going to help the tree. It's just going to be wasting some of its resources, some of its nutrients. So for instance, but if you want to take like a smaller cut because you don't feel comfortable taking a bigger piece, you may do like a 2-year pruning cycle, or even a 1-year pruning cycle on your young trees. But for me, I'm going to take this branch all the way back and limb this up so that this is not going to impede the sidewalk in the future. But I'll go ahead and demonstrate. Basically, you'll do an underside cut here, go further out down towards the end of the limb, make a cut, you remove your branch, and then go back in to make a final cut. And what we're looking at, you have a branch bark ridge. You want to make a 45-degree cut from that branch bark ridge. What we see is a donut that woundwood will respond and completely seal that cut. So, and then also we have some deadwood. You always want to remove deadwood out of the trees. You don't want any deadwood. Deadwood's an open door for disease. So I'm gonna remove this deadwood here. And a lot of folks, they have issues with, the ordinance requires 7 feet on the sidewalk side and 12 feet. They don't like how the tree looks lopsided. Well, you could always kind of offset that. It doesn't. The ordinance says 7 feet, but you can maybe go 8 or 9 to make it not look so uneven. We like it looking symmetrical, and so a lot of people like that look. So you can match it up over time. And also some of the tools that we have are professional grade tools. You can also get cheaper quality tools that'll do the same job. What we have is a Silky brand saw, but you may, Corona makes a decent saw. You can pick those up at Lowe's or Home Depot. So, but you definitely want I prefer a very sharp, double serrated hand saw. That seems like you can cut through the wood really nice with the right tools. So. And also on our trees we mulch, but we want to mulch properly. We want to use the proper techniques. We don't have. At one time there was mulch here, and that's what you want to see. You want to see mulch breaking down over time. You don't want to mound. We'll see mulch mounded up so high on the trunks that basically roots will grow into the mulch. They're not, roots are they need oxygen, water and nutrients to survive. And so if the purpose of mulch is to retain water, you want it to, but when you get mulch too deep, the depth of it, it basically becomes hydrophobic and it will shed the water. It will not retain the water. And then you have issues of roots, fibrous roots growing up into that and forming a root mat that ultimately some of those roots can girdle the trunk, and maples are notorious for having girdling roots. So we don't want to see the volcano mulch. We want to see basically a flat, just no more than 2-3 inches of mulch. The tree actually prefers the mulch to be wider, not stacked up on, basically spread out. Out in the woods you have that organic leaf litter that basically feeds and provides, is basically the mulch for the tree out in the woods. So it would prefer the mulch ring to be wider, not deeper and up on the stem of the tree. So that causes a host of problems that and it ultimately shortens the life of the tree, and so there's a guidelines to the proper mulching techniques on our website as well, so people can go there, and I think there's a link to the Trees Are Good website, which has even more proper pruning and mulching and maintenance practices for trees.